Good evening, indie community, and welcome back to Splam. That is self-publishing like a motherfucker. The not at all safe for work podcasts where we interview fellow self-published authors and pick their brains for the secrets to their success. Except for today, our first episode without a special guest. So we will be picking each other's brains. And with us tonight is my host, Claire, and my co-hosts from the Authors and Dragons podcast, Rick Gualtieri and Steve Wetherill. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Howdy, howdy. I mean, I figure, why shouldn't we pick each other's brains? I mean, between all of us, we've probably sold, I don't know, a couple dozen books or so.
Yeah. How's everybody doing? I'm feeling some low energy here today.
Well, Rick's had a long writing day.
Yeah.
He's written about 6,000 words, apparently. I've written about 600 words, so I should be a lot more energetic. And yet, I'm not. So it just goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you're in the UK, so what is it, like 3 in the morning there or something?
It's actually only 10 o'clock at night. But I am a tired old man, and it's a Tuesday.
And also, you put like a bunch of extra letters in your words, so that counts.
There is, yeah. It is more exhausting.
Oh, it's been a miserable day here at the Bevan house. I'm the only one in my family that's not sick.
Oh.
Yeah, my parents and sister and niece and nephew came to visit for the Easter weekend, and they brought disease with them.
But with them, the gift of plague.
Yeah.
See, this is why I don't talk to family.
Maybe I'll only be sick for 3 days. Everyone will only be sick for 3 days since it's an Easter thing.
Yeah, you should have just pulled a Jesus and hung out in a cave for 3 days.
I did. That's my garage.
All right. That's why you're not sick. It's an Easter miracle.
Oh, Claire, that leaves you. How are you doing?
Pretty good for a Tuesday. Tuesday is by far my least favorite day of the week. Just naturally. I was born on a Tuesday. I don't know what that says, but...
It says you hate yourself.
I mean, I regret every moment that's happened since I was born.
I thought you were going to say you hated Tuesday because that's the day you have to talk to the rest of us.
No, this is actually great because like Tuesday between like 3 and 5 p.m. my time is like... If I am not talking to someone or walking, I'm dead asleep, like accidental nap. So it's good. It keeps me awake.
Splam, you have to be conscious to listen to it.
Or you could take a more sinister turn, like Splam. It'll keep you awake at night.
Yeah, that's a big promise there. I don't know.
See how intense we get on this podcast.
Oh, I got one more woe to share. I know that our listeners are at the edge of their seats from last week. Still don't have my Nintendo Switch. It's due to come in Thursday. So, fingers crossed.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Next Splam should be like a resurrection episode.
I actually had a wonderful delivery yesterday. I got this piece in for this old-ass toilet in the house, and I finally managed to fix it after 10 years of it doing nothing but running nonstop.
10 years? Wow,
it takes a while for things to annoy me.
I thought I was negligent.
Hey, I was going to say we should start a GoFundMe for your water bill.
You just got like some kind of really rare toilet.
You know, so that's pretty much everything in my house that we learned ever since we moved in here. Everything here is non-standard, as in like every building in America builds their doors at like a certain height and width, but there's not a single door here that fits that. So you go to Home Depot, and they just look at you and they're like, "No, man, we got nothing for you."
This is an original model from when Jebediah Toilet first released his invention.
Jebediah Toilet.
I believe it's Twilight.
Yeah. Again, we have no guest today, so it's just us.
Yeah, normally we're ignoring someone right now.
Yeah.
We're being a lot more polite now that nobody's there.
Oh, man, we should have told people our guest was J.K. Rowling and then spend the entire episode not talking to her.
Boss move.
Because you're not a self-publisher, J.K., so we don't care what your opinion is. Oh, she is?
Yeah, she self-published her ebooks.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention her tweets there, that she just kind of maybe retconned everything and said, I self-published Harry Potter.
No, she, from what I understand, she hadn't given away the rights to ebooks when her books came out. And so she held on to those and just publishes direct through her own little company.
Yeah, but is that really her doing it, or is that her, like, whatever Oompa Loompas she's, like, she's bought?
I mean, I'm sure she's not, like, running Amazon ads and, like, formatting stuff in Vellum.
or on a Korean version of Word.
Yeah. JK, what's your self-publishing advice? Sell the print books for a mountain of money and then hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. So somebody didn't get the rights to the Harry Potter ebooks. They just got the hard copy rights because ebooks were around when those books were released, right?
Well, the first one was like 98 or something. So not then. Yeah, I don't know. This was something I read a while ago, and so I should probably like dig up the.
Oh God, that publisher's got to be kicking themselves. They've only got like 3 boats now.
Yeah.
And by the time, like, like, I guess ebooks got big, where they could have like maybe bullied. She was big enough to like be able to pay for all the lawyers. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, it's probably going towards her like orphan charity or something. So it's for the orphans.
Some fucking waste of money.
And when there's no orphans, she uses the money from her foundation to kill off some parents to make orphans to take care of.
Yeah, it's not hard to create orphans.
Never had so many orphans in this country. Exciting times.
Well, our purpose here isn't to bitch about J.K. Rowling all night, believe it or not. No, we decided we'd do a round table. And Claire, I'll let you walk us in since this was your idea. What are we talking about tonight?
So my idea was to talk about ways that you can increase your sales and that sort of thing without spending money or with spending very minimal amounts of money.
I like that idea.
Yeah, because I think even people who have the budget to like advertise and do all these things, and you just still, you can maximize your ROI on everything with some of these different tricks.
Now, I guess we should be clear. We're not talking like the salad days of self-publishing where you could put out a book and magically, like, sales would come in without you doing anything. These are things meant to kind of like optimize sales, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it's more for like exposure than straight advertising. So like, okay, so one of them is organizing promotions, which is something that I've done a couple times. And, you really got to weigh time against money on that one sometimes, because I'm sure you guys know organizing indie authors can be a little bit like herding cats.
Oh, yeah, I'm the worst at this. In fact, I sent out, like, late last year sometime, I said, hey, I reached out to a couple other indie authors. And I said, you guys want to do a cross-promotion thing? And they was like, yeah. And then, I never got around to doing it.
Oh, so you don't have experience with herding cats, but you couldn't herd yourself?
Yeah.
He's like a cat trying to herd cats. It's just fucking shit show.
It's like one of those things that seems like a great idea when I'm drinking at 2 a.m, and then when it comes to actually doing it, I don't know. If you've done it, Tell us about it.
Well, so there's a couple different ways to do it. I mean, so this would be like a minimal expense is get a BookFunnel account. And they're really, really cost effective for those who have BookFunnel accounts. For those who are unfamiliar with it, I'll go ahead and plug it, the service, because it's great. You can put your books up there for free. And so if someone wants to, needs like a advanced reader copy, you can send them a link there, and BookFunnel hosts the file and helps them get it onto their e-reader. But they also list cross promos by genre, so you can create one, and then people just drop their links in there, and then you kind of organize through there. And if you already have a BookFunnel account, that is free, and that's great. And now you can also sell direct using BookFunnel, like from your website. You can sell your books and get 100% of the royalties or whatever. 100% minus the Stripe or PayPal fees.
Well, let me ask a question because I have a BookFunnel account and I use it a lot for ARCs and other stuff, and I use it for my email list, my reader magnets. But I did sign up for their promotions, and every time I get a promotion, I am quick to ignore the shit out of it because I just look at them like, I can't be bothered. So, do they actually work?
So I've had my assistant staying on those a little bit more to get some of my free books in there. And I usually get about 700 new emails each time, like 700 new signups for my list. So in that respect, if you don't have much of a list, it's a great way to build a list. They're not all promising leads. So I put mine through a pretty brutal gauntlet of onboarding emails to qualify them. And only if they've opened X amount or engaged in this way or, clicked or replied or something, do I put them onto my main list. And if they didn't, I boot them off because I don't want to pay for subscribers who aren't doing anything.
Right. Now, you said this is a promotion. Do you make a normally paid book free, or is this a perma-free book you're putting out there?
I do perma-free books
Okay.
just because if you're in KU, you can't put that book up for free anywhere.
Right.
Unless it's an art copy. Some people, though, will do samples. Some BookFunnel promotions allow you to put a sample, so you can put up to 10% of a book that's on KU. You can put up to 10% of it available for free for people to read. You just want to make sure that the cover says something like sample, so you don't get a bunch of pissed readers.
I'm impressed you're getting those kind of subscribers, because I've got a free book up there. It doesn't do shit, but I don't do promotions with it or anything, but it's in the back matter of all my ebooks and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the organic sign up is never as there's not as much quantity of it, but the quality is always way better. So that's probably ideal.
Yeah, I just recently started doing those. I have 2 freebies up, depending on what series you go into, and I will say, it's slow, but holy crap, it is a lot faster than what I did before, which was just, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you get nothing.
Yeah, no, people don't like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've used the same thing. I went from, I didn't have an email list, so I thought I should probably get one, but I didn't know how to do it. Do I just go around asking people individually like some kind of author hobo? But I found one of those sites, put a free copy of. I built a sizable, more sizable than zero list very quickly. But then it did seem to taper off. I wasn't really getting any new reads after a while. So
before we move along, I have some news. I figured something out. I asked you guys, not all of you, but on one of our Facebook chats, I asked if anybody knew how I could retrieve my files that I'd sent into KDP, because I want to. They send us these quality notices, and so I want to make corrections and upload the corrected file. But I'm so unorganized, I can't find the original files. However, I have discovered that if you go into your KDP site and click on the bookshelf tab, I can click on the right-hand side where you can edit all your shit. And if you go to edit ebook content and then sign in again and then scroll down to the bottom, you can download a preview on your computer, like the previewer. So that just essentially gives you your file back.
Well, I haven't tried in a while, but I don't think that actually works if you're uploading in the new KPF format. I don't think they allow you to do that.
What the hell is a KPF format?
If you're using a program like Kindle Creator, so
you're always one step ahead.
Yeah, I'm one step ahead and using a format that is incompatible with Amazon actually helping me here.
Yeah, didn't we already address that? It takes 12 hours for you to reformat a book.
Not 12 hours.
10 hours. Be reasonable.
All right, but if you're not using that way, if you're just, like a caveman like me, and you're just using, I don't even know what you're even talking about. I'm using just the way I've always uploaded ebooks.
One could argue it's unnecessary to do that if one were to buy maybe like a $5 USB key fob and copy their files to it.
You see, when I'm in that situation, Bevan, what I do is just trawl through the 60 identically named files I've got. And hope
this is what I
the correct one.
How any of us has ever sold a book is beyond me.
Got about 10 files that all say latest version on them. Most up to date.
Exactly.
This one.
You know, at this point in the podcast, I'm pretty much safe in saying, Claire, you should be able to own all of us as pets.
But this is why the podcast is useful, because we're incompetent, and if we can do it, it gives hope.
That's right.
I thought that's what the format was. We're all incompetent. We get guests on who are hyper competent, and then we kind of
and have Wikipedia pages.
Look at our feet in embarrassment for 40 minutes.
Anyway, I thought I'd share that news. Might be useful to some of you. It's useful to me.
Great. Maybe we can talk about file naming conventions in a future episode.
I've got conventions. I just don't have the patience or self-discipline to use them.
Yeah, I've got conventions. They just don't make any sense at all.
Right.
How about just sorting by date of the last file you modified?
Well, that only works if I modified the correct file. I like to keep myself on my toes, Rick. Leave a few interesting traps for future Steve that I'll get out time with.
Okay, so BookFunnel promotions.
I mean...
Now, the thing to mention is BookFunnel is not free, but it is relatively cheap. I think it's, like $100 a year?
Yeah, something like that. You can really get your money's worth. And it's great because the customer service, it's like, you're going to get some readers who are very tech impaired, and you can just be like, no, go ask BookFunnel how to get it onto your e-reader.
Yeah, that is the absolute best thing I love is when I'm distributing ARCs and stuff, and people are like, it doesn't work. Like before, I used to actually try to troubleshoot. Now it's just like talk to the BookFunnel people because they're smarter than me.
That's the feature that sold me. I heard the BookFunnel guy on a different podcast, whatever his name is,
Damon,
Jebediah BookFunnel. He said that, and I was like, yeah, that's the one I need.
I used InstaFreebie, which I think is kind of the cheap low-end market. You can kind of use it for free unless you want to link it up to your mailing list, in which case you have to pay a little bit of money. So I guess there'd be no point in using it for free unless you just wanted to give people free books for no fucking reason.
That's not called InstaFreebie anymore. It's got some lame name now.
Oh yeah, Prolific Works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have those. I also have a subscription for that because I don't know what I'm using for my free books, and I don't want to get rid of one of those subscriptions in case that's the one.
Really need some kind of convention here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like BookFunnel at the back of my book because I'm like, hey, if you want to read about this character's other adventure, just click here, and it takes you right to the BookFunnel page. You put in your email address, I get your email address, you get the book instantaneously, and it integrates really nicely.
Yeah, well, now that I've downloaded all of my files, I can go back and change the back matter so that I know which one I'm using and then stop paying for the other one. Yay.
Well, so the back matter is another thing, but before I get to that, if you don't want to get BookFunnel, you can organize promos on your website. Robert, I know you've done this. I've done this a couple times where you literally just ask authors hey, if I feature your book on this website for this limited number of, or on my website for this limited number of days, will you send an email out to your list? And you just get a bunch of authors and you put their books, put a little link to their books with the covers on there on your website on a specific page. And if you're, super savvy, you can hook up your Amazon affiliates account. You can get one of those and get some money per sale through that. And it's just a great way to drive traffic to your website where you will theoretically have all your books listed and get new eyes on your book. Because, of course, if you're hosting it, don't be an idiot, feature your book prominently. That's another free way to do it. It's that wrangling of people that can get a little bit time consuming.
I have no experience in wrangling people, but I have been wrangled into them. And it's always that's kind of like the lazy way to do it. Just hope that somebody selects you for their book promotion. Which if you've got a toe in a couple of genres, is pretty good, because if somebody's like doing a sci-fi one or a horror one, then you've got something you can put on the table, and then they kind of do all the work, and you get eyes on your book. So that's I've had some of them that have worked out well and got new readers, and some of them not so much. But I didn't have to organize shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've been in a few good ones, but I think I've been in more bad ones. And I don't know, I always see these awesome urban fantasy, like, like promos and stuff going up, and I'm like, how am I not getting into these good ones? I'm like, either I'm in the wrong groups or people are purposely not inviting me into the right groups. But yeah, I mean, I've been in a couple that, like, I don't know what it was, but they were just organized, and even a few that were paid, that just, the organization just sucked. And then at the end of it, when you got the email, it turned out that they had written the legalese badly, so everybody was pissed because, like, you're adding this person to your list or so. And, like, that, for that reason, I've kind of shied away from any, like, email promotions. It's just like made me gun shy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really good ones out there, and there's always going to be flops, but it's like, I mean, I would be very careful going into anything where you have a bunch of authors who are contributing something, and then that person is gathering a bunch of emails and sending them back out to the authors, because that is often illegal sharing of email addresses.
I was involved in one of those ones.
You also might want to be careful, because sometimes if you just jump into a big promotion, you can kind of, much like jumping into an orgy with, like, with people, you can walk away essentially with your brand sullied, because I've heard horror stories, hasn't happened to me fortunately, but I've heard horror stories of people going into this with, like, other authors who turned out maybe were not that legit, and as a result, their books maybe wound up getting flagged and such on Amazon, kind of like they contracted author venereal disease by being in the same promotion with somebody who was not a necessarily up and up player. Again, anecdotal at best, but I would say that is something to take into account. Is I would never go into promotion unless I knew all the other players involved, only because my brand is very important to me, and sullying that brand simply because I'm lazy or, like, or not paying attention, getting to bed with somebody who's, well, let's be honest, is a scumbag, I don't want to do.
That was the same promotion I was talking about before, with the guy collecting all the email addresses and shipping them back out. Also, those a few players in that promotion don't have Amazon accounts anymore.
Jeez.
Won't go any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to do your diligence, but to some extent, like, you can't. I mean, like, if we're going to go with the venereal disease metaphor, like, do you really want to never get laid just because you're scared of venereal disease?
Oh, man, you're so cool. He said, just one of the cool kids at school.
I mean, you got to take some risks and, meet some people.
Yeah.
Do some drugs, ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I was wearing a condom when I ran this promotion.
Doesn't save you from author herpes.
I'm not saying that, like, as authors we should lock ourselves into our own room. I'm just saying, go out there, make friends, find people you trust, and when you're going into a promotion, do a little bit of, like, research and stuff. Like, ask around if
for sure.
When you're in this industry long enough, you get a bit of that gut feeling of, okay, this stuff looks skeevy, maybe I should ask around. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, it's more and more defunct these days since they got bought out, but Kboards used to be an awesome place for this. Kboards.com. There was a ton of indie authors there, a lot of good information shared, but also a lot of information shared about people maybe you wanted to stay away from. And I mean, just getting into, like, the nitty gritty of the indie author community sometimes is a good way to hear, of, oh, gee, maybe this is somebody you really don't want to, like, go in there without double bagging it.
Yeah. Which, for all of our listeners who had abstinence-based sex ed, double bagging it actually not more effective.
Yes. We should make, like, a promotion site called, like, Author Condom, where you vet the authors first.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, for God's sake. Double back the old orphan.com.
You mentioned, Robert, back matter, and I think we wanted to talk about that.
I did, because I suck at it, and I was hoping you guys were better with it.
Are we still using the whole venereal disease metaphor to back? It sounds like it. A double back before you get into the back matter. Get the old orphan piece.
Let's penetrate the back matter.
Ah, this is the sexiest podcast we've done so far. Brilliant.
So, Claire, tell us about your back matter.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. I like to keep mine in really good working order. Check up on it every year or so.
Wow.
No, but okay, so back matter. So for those people who are unfamiliar with the term, it's just what comes after your epilogue or the last chapter of your book. So I don't know, any best practices you guys use?
I used to be pretty stringent with this stuff back when I used to be part of the Dead Pixel group. I put in pictures of books related to kind of what you'd get in old paperbacks. Like if you bought an installment of a Terry Pratchett book, there'd always be a kind of pictures of the other books you can get. And I used to do a picture for other authors in Dead Pixel. But I was stringent with it then, and I haven't been in Dead Pixel for 5 years now. And I was looking through my book copy the other day, and I thought I should really update that shit, seeing as how they don't exist anymore. And
yeah. I can give you a wrong way to do it. When I first started out, I would put links to all my other books individually in the back, but I found out with every new release, you got to go update that shit on all your previous books, and that's a pain in the ass. So what I've done, I've included a link to my ebooks website, and so yeah, I don't have to keep updating it.
See, I still do. I don't put every single book of mine because otherwise we're going to get into pages and pages. But I do kind of a highlight list. So for example, Toma Bill series is complete. All of those books are there. Whatever series you're reading at the time. So for example, if you're in my Crypto Hunter series, those books are definitely there. So, but that's in the About the Author section, which most people, I would say, are probably not going to see, because Amazon is pretty notorious that once you hit the end page, they're flashing up all sorts of things like, hey, leave a review, hey, do this, hey, do that, and you're kind of losing people. So I'd say my best practice is after you put your big the end, you end the story, whatever, and I know some people don't do that. I love having the end there. Skip a few lines, don't skip a page, and whatever your most important message is, and I find you want to keep that minimal because you don't want to hit somebody with too many links, you want to put it there. So at the end of Bill the Vampire, the end, there's a quick little one-line blurb that says, hey, Bill's adventures continue in Scary Dead Things. There's a link there. Then a few lines below that, there's an ad to join my mailing list and get the freebie there. And then you skip to the next page and you have all the about the author stuff, all the stuff that the hardcore readers might read, but probably 90% of people don't get to.
All right, that's good stuff. I didn't realize they did that after the end page.
Well, it depends on how you're formatting it, like what software you're using. Because I know I use Vellum, which I cannot recommend highly enough to Mac users. It is worth, to get the full license, I think it's $200 or something, which obviously doesn't fall under our free, but if you have a little money to spend, oh my God, it's just beautiful. Anyway, if you create your back matter and do it as an uncharacterized page, then it will likely fall after Kindle pops up all the bullshit at the end of the book. But if you format it as a chapter or as an epilogue, it's just a notation that doesn't show up anywhere in the book, but it's in the data that's part of the actual book. It'll show up before the break. So that's one trick you can do. And so with, piggybacking on what Rick is saying, you want to make sure your most important call to action comes immediately after the end. Because it's diminishing return. It's like a Google search, the first result gets, most of the traffic. And then
the saying is, if you're a murderer, where do you hide the body? On the second page of Google results. That's what they say in advertising.
Yeah.
I've heard
exactly.
some smug twats and ties say that before.
All right, what is your most important things that you put there that you don't want the readers to miss?
On book 1, it's a link to book 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, for me, that's what I think is the most important thing. Like, because that's the hardest transition to get a reader from 1 to 2. You want to make it as seamless as possible.
Sure.
In theory, Amazon with all their automation should be doing this for you since they allow you to put series and stuff. But you know something? Trusting to that is just a fool's errand.
I'll do I'll have a page that's considered like a chapter and epilogue after the last chapter. And so it says the end. People are going to flip the page because they've been flipping the page. So it flips the page, and so I have a picture of the cover and like a 2-paragraph sentence that all fits on like a Kindle Paperwhite screen, and then a link. And so they also get to see a very brief description, kind of like a smaller blurb of the next book to get them interested and to like remind them what could be coming next. So that's how I do it. But I know like a lot of people do it like Rick, where it's just a quick link.
Well, I do say a little bit about it. Once again, it's a very abbreviated version of the blurb, and my blurbs aren't very long. But yeah, I used to put actually a lot more after the end, and the click-through rate was not good. Moving it down to just 2 things, which essentially is link to the next book, and below that, a note about my email list. That has worked so much better because you're not overloading people. Like the first thought might be, well, hell, I'm going to put every single one of my links there. Here's my book. Here's my email list. Here's where to find me on Facebook. Here's where to find me on on Instagram. But when you hit people with too much, that whole concept of less is more comes into play there. Especially once they click out of that book, because they're that much less likely to return to it.
I try to emulate a kind of cheap trick that paperbacks used to use back before my books were picked up by Falstaff and formatted correctly, is putting a kind of half a chapter of the next book in the back matter. Has anybody ever tried that?
I do that all the time. I love those.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I love them, but I've heard a lot of people who think they're cheating somehow.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheating when somebody stuffs a book, because Amazon actually spells this out. Your back matter should be less than 10% of the book. So as long as you're doing that, you're fine. But it's cheating, for example, if you and this is something that the book stuffers would do, and they've since cracked down on it, fortunately. And although with Amazon, they cracked down on it and then they ignored it again. The idea of book stuffing is I have 5 books. So at the end of each one of my books, so book 1, oh, here's my bonus books. Here's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Book 2, oh, here's my bonus books. 1, 3, 4, and 5. And basically it's just stuffing under the assumption that some people with Kindle are just going to keep reading and reading and reading because, hey, free material. And even though you're not getting those as paid sales, you're racking those up as as page reads, which, at the end of the day is like what most of the people who are in key are after. That's what stuffing is. But a bonus chapter, that's a time-honored tradition there.
Yeah.
I mean, my back matter is typically this, the end, those couple links, then you skip a page. Then I usually put an author notes page, which is usually just a couple paragraphs of me saying, hey, here's where I wrote this story, blah, blah, blah. You don't care. Make a few bad jokes, whatever. Just my, that's more ego gratification than anything. There's almost always, I think maybe there's one of my books that doesn't have a bonus chapter. Every one of my books has a bonus chapter, usually to the next book, sometimes to another series if it's the end of a series. And then there's the About Me page, which lists, hey, if you want to see other crap that I've written.
Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Should really check out my back matter from my old books.
What do you guys do?
If it's any consolation, I just redid the back matter in the 6 Jessica Christ books plus the box set for that series in the hour and a half prior to this call, because it'd been on my list forever. So it doesn't take that much time. Once you can get the format set, it's pretty easy to duplicate. And I added reader links in the back of all of them, so I'm super nerdy excited to see how all that works. But
yes, but doesn't Vellum allow you to essentially have a separate thing for back matter, so you can kind of just add it to your books?
It has different formats for it. But once you have the sort of standard format of what each one's going to look like, and you write, I write out what my order is, so I can see it really clearly for each book, because it changes for each book. My priorities change as people get, farther in the series. So maybe if you don't have Vellum, it'll take 4 hours. But it's 4 hours really well spent.
Yeah, I'll just add, like, Vellum is not free. If you're on PC, Kindle Create is free, and I will say it does make very nice looking Kindle books. But the one thing it doesn't support is links. So whenever I do update those back matter links, which is pretty often, I do have to reformat the book again, which is a pain in the ass. So Amazon, I know you're not listening to this, but if you are, add friggin' link support. It's not that friggin' difficult.
Claire, you're saying your priorities change later in the series. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, well, I always have the next book in the series as the first thing they see.
Okay.
But then after that, so for say the Jessica Christ series, my freebie is a short story that takes place between book 1 and book 2. So that's featured really prominently in book 1. Like behind the link for book 2, I put that, and then I put it at the end of book 2, and then I put it at the end of book 3, and then I figure if they haven't gotten it by now, they don't give a shit, or they've already signed up to my list, so whatever, I can feature that kind of farther in the back, and then I move up stuff like certain books have author notes because it just seemed appropriate, and then so author note may go after the freebie, and then when the freebie becomes less relevant, I'll move the author note up. So that sort of thing. And then a request for review, depending on, I think it changes throughout the book. But if I don't have an author note and then it's later in the series, so I don't care about the freebie, then I'll put the request for a review right behind the next book in the series.
Let me ask you this. I sell like physical products on Amazon as well, and that's a different beast, but I'm able to send automated emails to my buyers and include a link that leads right to a review page. Is there a thing like that for ebooks? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. It basically just throws you to like lower on the page. That's something you can do, like, I don't know what the actual URL is, but you can do it in reader links. You can create a link that goes directly to the review page. So
good information. Reader links.
Now, just offering this caution, and here's the thing, I'm a Reader Links customer. I think it's an awesome service, but the only caution I will add is that if Reader Links ever goes away, or if you ever decide to stop using Reader Links, you better go into that back matter really quick and update the crap out of that, because otherwise you're just sending people dead links.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I will offer one other caution, but this was more on their end. At one point, when I was wide, Kobo completely changed the layout of their entire store, including their links. So previous links you had suddenly went dead overnight, and they didn't bother to tell anybody.
Oh, that's handy.
So it's never a bad idea, especially if you're wide, or even if you're not wide. Once in a blue moon, like I keep a separate file for all of this stuff, but in Word, just where I can copy and paste into my other books. Just go in there and just check those links and make sure they still work.
Go check your back matter, gents.
Bust out that little hand mirror and check your back matter.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be often. Probably once a year is probably fine. Just go through and just make sure that Amazon hasn't like changed something where suddenly at the end of your book you're just sending people to a can't be found page.
Right. I mean, if you're lucky, readers will let you know about that. But oftentimes it's like if they're on their Kindle, they're not going to like pull up a new browser window and all that. So.
Another thing the marketing pricks used to say is you should make it as easy as possible for people to give you their money. Mm-hmm. So any extra step in the buying process is a chance for them to find some other author, because readers are basically slags.
Well, that actually brings up a good point about easy ways to get people to give their money without spending a lot is, and we've talked about this a couple times in the past, but never forget the concept of box sets. Because it quite literally, I mean, maybe you might need to pay for a new cover or something for the ebook box set, maybe not. But it pretty much requires very little effort once you have a complete series or a half a series or whatever, and like maybe sales are starting to slow, to take that stuff together and mash it up into one file. And now you have another product to sell, and that's a different demographic. Some people like to buy individual books. Some people are bargain shoppers, and they're looking for those box sets.
Yeah, and it helps move someone from book 1 to book 2 in your series. I mean, when they just have to turn a page and they're suddenly in the second book of your series, there's a lot less of a barrier to get them. And most series take off at book 3 or so.
And the thing is, if you have a long series where you have multiple box sets, at that point, if somebody buys box set 1 and they make it through and they don't hate you by then, you pretty much are like leaving money off the table by not having them continue.
Yeah.
Just so I can clarify, I know that Amazon kind of groups your series these days, but are you guys talking about doing a box set that you would do at kind of a reduced price from buying it all individually, or?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you mean by box set. Okay.
Mine would be, if I'm selling, I got my first 4 boxed. My first book is 99 cents. The rest are, 2, 3, and 4 are $4.99, so that would be $16. On John's advice, I've bumped up my box set price to $10. That was pretty recent. I don't know if that's affected things at all. But, still much cheaper than individuals.
Yeah, I have to look into maybe doing that, because right now both of my box sets are, and I follow the same pricing structure pretty much as you, Bob, except my box sets are both like $7.99, like $8 a piece. And that
that's what mine used to be, yeah.
And I'm kind of afraid to like bump them up to $9.99. Not that I think that's too much for them, but I did actually testing when they first came out, and at various price points, and that $6 or $7.99 price point actually seemed the point where they were selling the most.
Oh, well, I was just going to add, box sets are a big favorite of people in Kindle Unlimited, because they have that, they can only check out 10 books at a time. So they're much more likely to borrow a box set so that they can fill those other 9, slots with other books. So you do get a lot of page reads on box sets.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that. But
I'll just add that in some ways that kind of annoys me, because if Kindle actually did their job, there should be no reason for box set on Kindle, because technically they should say, in a perfect world, you should be able to okay, you reach into this book, hey, there's a book 2, and Amazon's pushing it. Why don't you just grab it right now and download it? So in some ways, the fact that they let box sets onto Kindle Unlimited kind of actually led to the whole concept of the stuffing issue. And I'm completely editorializing there, but
So Rick, all right, your Bill series ended with 8 books, right?
yes.
All right. See, it's going to be a little different for me because I'm hopefully going to 20. But I'm just curious. Did you? All right. Well, for your first box set, did you make that right after you release of book 4?
Well, between book 4 and book 5, there's a side story, and so I released the box set maybe about 8 months after book 4, and it was just kind of on a whim. I was like, I haven't released that for a while. I don't have another release coming up for a while. Let me put this out there so I have something, and just give me something to play around with. So the idea behind releasing a box set, at least for me, is I don't want to release a box set while the individual books are still going strong. I only want to release them after things have slowed down.
This was the nature of my question. So I guess you did the same thing. Yeah, well, you were a little bit more experienced by the time you finished book 8.
Yeah, and I pretty much did the exact same thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and I do the same thing with the audio box sets. Is let the individual books have their day in the sun, and once things start slowing down, then you bring the box sets out. And hey, at that point, you have them both in the market, and depending on how you want to play things, what I'm doing with advertising or not, I can either emphasize the box sets or I can emphasize the individual books. They're both there. And, hey, it seems to work out.
All right.
Any other tips for free ways to get your books out there or improve your quality?
If your books are in Kindle Unlimited, there is the... what was it called? The Kindle Countdown deals. I haven't done one, but I used to be a big believer in that, and I guess I kind of still am. I've just been busy and forgetting to do it. But I've had some success with that.
What's your strategy with that?
Well, yeah, I got my bundles and box sets and stuff. Yeah, the D6 books, which are collections of short stories, and then the one box set of the first 4 books, and I would run all those at the same time at 99 cents. Run a few Facebook ads, get a little boost in sales, and then maybe a month later, maybe 2 months later or whatever, I would do a super promo on all the individual books at 99 cents, which, I'm up to 30-something short stories and 7 books now.
You have to take all day to set up a sale.
Oh, God. It does. It truly does. But then, I'd run that, and that's sometimes okay. But a lot of people
you
just
still have to drive traffic,
short
too.
stories. Yeah, and I count on Facebook ads for that, or I did, but I don't know. The Facebook ads are starting to lose their luster for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying something different with, or at least different for me, with actually not the countdown deal, but the Kindle freebies this week. And I'll freely admit I'm stealing this from somebody else who did it and had a really huge run with it. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it there, but I recently moved the first book in the Bill series down to 99 cents. Typically, my books actually sell better at full price than when I discount them, but I figured I'd just try because I haven't changed the price in a long time. What I'm doing is I'm making the second book free with the freebie thing. So the idea being that's free, that gets the eyeballs, but the first book is 99 cents, so it should hopefully lead to a pulsing of sales for that. The idea then being, okay, you have the first 2 books of the series. If you like it, at that point,
strategy kind of goes counter to Steve's advice there about making things easy, but yeah.
Well, again, I'm only trying this because I saw somebody else do it, and they had phenomenal results, and I was like, something.
Oh hell, if it works, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, something. Worst case scenario is I put book 2 out there for a couple days for free, and nobody gives a shit. Oh well.
How long has book 1 been 99 cents?
I put it down to 99 cents maybe like a month ago.
Have you noticed any changes?
Something. It was only this past weekend that I started to notice some changes because it was moldering along at the same thing, and I was actually getting. If it hadn't done anything this weekend, I was actually telling myself, "All right, screw this. I'm just going to put it back up because if it's staying at that same rank for $4.99 versus 99 cents, well, at least I'm making better money off of that." But this past weekend, it actually showed a little bit of life, so. I'm going to run the sale. We'll see how it goes. If it moves anything, if it does. Maybe I'll leave it at 99 cents for a little bit longer, but if not, as I said, it's weird. A lot of these things that people have done that have worked for them have never worked for me. Like I tried doing perma-free for a while. Other people have had good results. It always sucked for me. Honestly, the thing that has always worked best for me is selling all my books at full price.
Yeah, my first one's been 99 cents for ages, and I've been toying with the idea of raising it to full price, but I don't know. It scares me. I don't want to lose my rank.
Well, I will say that rank is not as important as profit.
Well, yeah. Well, I wouldn't recommend this for anybody with a short series, but what I'm going for is more downloads of book 1 and more visibility of book 1, and I've got 6 more books to follow it.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Getting that loss leader going is always useful.
I found especially when I was doing perma-free, the sell-through sucked. Versus when I sell it at full price, it's almost like the commitment is there. Like people have been like, well, I paid now, I'm kind of committed to the series. Where the perma-free and to a lesser degree, the 99 cents. I'm hoping we'll see more for this this week, but I don't know. It just has never really worked for me.
Yeah, I remember seeing I think Kobo put it out, and it was saying like the read through from book 1 to 2 when 2 was like full price, maybe like $2.99 or something, and then book 1 was free, and it was like 1 to 2%. Yeah. So that's definitely what you can expect because you've created no barrier for entry. You're not going to have people self-vetting as they would if it was, $2.99 or $4.99 or even 99 cents. And you're also going to get worse reviews.
Yeah. Well, also, how many people just grab like whatever they see free and never ever look at it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why the read-through rate is low because people just book hoard or they pick it up and they think it may be just based on the cover, like, oh, maybe this is something I'll like, and they don't even bother to read the blurb, and then they start reading it, and they're like, not for me, they put it aside. So you're not getting the right readers. So it's I think it's just how you want to, strategize, if that matters to you, or if you'd rather just throw your book at as many people as possible.
I don't know if you guys want to throw out numbers here, but I found that, I've got book 1 at 99 cents and the rest at full price. I find that a third of my book 1 readers go on to read the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. Is that about on par, or does that suck, or what?
I haven't tested it 99 cents yet, but at full price, I get I'd say about half the people who start book 1 wind up and finishing the series. So about 50%. But that's pretty good. But like I said, but when I was doing perma-free, I found once again that thing of like, okay, the people who are grabbing book 1, once again, it's like, yeah, maybe if I'm lucky, 10% of them and moved on to book 2.
Right. It'll screw it up. And I think it depends, because I know a lot of people will get up and talk about, they'll be at conferences or whatever and talking about their read-through rate. And I usually take whatever read-through rate they say and cut it in half.
Yeah, there's always a grain of salt to be had there.
Yeah, for sure. Because, they're going to skew it one way or another, usually.
You're calling me a fucking liar?
No, not you, Robert. I don't think you're trying to be anything you're not.
Well, also the reality is Kindle Unlimited also it makes it hard to judge read-through rate sometimes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. You have to do page read-through rate versus like buying. And yeah, it can muddy it up a little bit. From what I've heard from people who are not on stage, anywhere from like 30 to 70% read-through. 70 seems really high. So I would even say like 30 to 60 is about usual, depending on genre, depending on how well your blurb and your price and everything are steering in the right readers, that sort of thing.
But I don't doubt the 70% with certain authors. Like K.F. Breen, she's like huge in urban fantasy and people love her stuff. So I wouldn't doubt that she's seeing like 70% or so. But yeah, I would say when somebody's on stage, and especially if you can look up their stuff and see their ranks right there, and sometimes the reality versus what they're talking about doesn't really match.
Right. I think it's important to just like not try and compare yourself. Like if I compare myself writing, religious satire to someone who's writing very like, like genre specific, right to market sci-fi or space opera or something. That's a dumb comparison. It's, apples to oranges. But I think the important thing is to figure out what your read-through rate is and try and create like from 1 to 2 especially, and create those incremental improvements. Because if you have, 30% read-through rate from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 and all that, it's, in the like 80s and 90s, which generally you can get once you get them to book 2. And all you have to do to create a whole hell of a lot more money is increase your read-through rate by, say, 5%. So I think it's important to know it just so you can try and improve upon it.
Another thing you can do is, and this sometimes does take money because you usually kind of need ads to do it, but figure out your approximate conversion rate on your book page. I mean, here's the thing. You can't do that by yourself because Amazon will not tell you. But using ads, like AMS ads, you can kind of get a baseline for, okay, when I see how many people go to my books versus like the increase in sales and such, or the increase in borrows, you can kind of put together a base conversion rate. And by doing that, you can then play around with your blurb and see if that conversion rate goes up or down.
Yes, absolutely. Blurb is the best way to change conversion rate for free.
I would say, like, for authors, that there's that holy trinity, I would call it, of your book cover, your blurb, and make sure the look inside is nice and clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and everybody's different for what sells them. Some people live or die by the look inside. Me, if your cover and your blurb are kick-ass, you've sold me that book. I don't care about the look inside at that point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we've talked about blurbs before, and there are services you can use and, pay someone to do your blurb. But if you want to go free, what are some of y'all's strategies for improving your blurbs?
Okay. Well, first of all, I try to style my blurbs after kind of like movie trailers. The idea mm-hmm. there being, kind of like almost if somebody was like narrating in a world, mm-hmm. so writing my own blurbs. But here's the thing, author communities. And I'm not going to say put it out there in a huge author community, because you put it out there in a community with 50,000 people, opinions are like assholes. Try to find an author community that's relatively small of people who you trust. These are the people you want to let tear apart your blurb. Like I'm in a couple groups. I mean, I'm in the Authors and Dragons group. I think I put a couple blurbs out there to you guys. I'm in a small secret author group that's very limited. I mean, maybe there's 20 or 30 people in it. And I mean, if I have a blurb that I'm struggling with, I'll put it out there. And there's some people in there who are in the same genre as me, and there's other people who are in different genres. And I take that advice and I see what parts of it I like, and I construct kind of a final blurb from there. And usually it winds up being stronger than something I construct myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I fucking love writing blurbs. I think I might be the only author out there who really loves writing blurbs. If I could just write the blurb but not the book, or just kind of like write a blurb and say, there you go, give it to an author, I'd be quite a happy existence for me.
Dude, you could make a business out of that.
Mm-hmm.
People have, and here's the thing, starting out, I think one of the bigger guys out there, they're charging, $300 for a blurb or something ridiculous these days? Mm-hmm. Put yourself out there for $50 a blurb, and you will have people lining up out the door. Because people, one, they don't like writing blurbs. Two, a lot of people aren't very good at it.
Well, yours do pretty well, I think, because it pretty much tells you what you expect with the book. Like it's very, the tone is just right. And I think a lot of authors, especially first-time authors, miss that on their blurbs the first time because they're trying, they don't really know what they're trying to do. They're trying to please their work. They're trying to sound like other work. It's just kind of a hot mess. I think the assumption is if it's your first or even like your first 3 or 4 or 5 books, workshop that bitch. Like, do not just put up your first attempt.
Yeah, and some authors, they have no idea what the fuck a blurb is. They will put up a summary, and it is just the most painful thing to read on a book page. In this story, young Jack will find his destiny by doing this and this and this and this, and it's like, wow, and you think this is selling it to me?
Yeah, so 2 great books to read. The first one, I think most people who've searched for this know. Brian Cohen has How to Write a Sizzling Synopsis. And then Libby Hawker, some people aren't down with Brian's approach, or it's too, whatever. And that's fine. But Libby Hawker also has a book called Gotta Read It. And that one is really good at breaking down what are the 5 things that need to be in your blurb. And basically, you have to keep it character focused. That's kind of what people care about. They don't care about, all the different planet names and the different races that you've created, and they don't need every character's first, middle, and last name kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll give that a shout out too, because I really like Libby, and she knows how to sell books and stuff, and she's also the real deal. She's an author. She's putting out stuff there. She's not just a marketer selling services and such. So yeah, I would definitely check out her stuff. And here's the other thing: is if you don't want to spend money on a blurb book, you know what? Find best-selling books in your genre and read their damn blurbs and figure it out. You will see commonalities where, as I mentioned movie trailers before, you will see there is usually, here's an introduction, your inner world statement, then there's a little bit of, okay, then there's your problem statement of, okay, well, what's wrong in this world? What's needs to be solved? Mm-hmm. And then there's the final thing, which usually lists the consequences, And if these people don't get together and bone, all life in the universe will end.
God, I've used that line so many times and it never worked.
Steve, when you republished your books with Falstaff, did they change your blurbs?
It did change my blurbs. Yeah.
Significantly?
Not significantly, because they were the same books.
Right. I'm saying, you say you like writing blurbs so much. I just wondered, do they think, this guy's fucking blurb genius, and we're not going to mess with this?
I really liked my covers as well.
I did too. I was kind of bummed to see those change.
Yeah.
Let's pick on John because he's not here.
Yeah. But John was definitely trying to sell far more efficiently to a market he knows exists than I was.
Right.
And, I don't think I think my blurbs used to start with a positive quote by another author, but I don't know if people really like that anymore. But I had some pretty cool quotes from some guy called Robert Bevan, and I had a quote from Brockway. I thought, wow, yeah, that'll put some eyes on it. But
and Hartness said, let's get rid of this shit.
Nobody gives a fuck what Robert Bevan says.
I like the blurbs that were there before, but they haven't really changed that much.
Since they've changed and since your covers have changed, and since you've gone through the whole process, have you noticed an uptick in sales?
I think John's probably selling what I was selling before, to be honest. But he's
Falstaff books.
But he's I can only kind of assume that from breaking it down from the royalty statement. I know he's selling a lot more hard copies than I ever did.
Yeah.
Probably in all the years, or probably more hard copies than I ever had, because John's actually very good at selling books, whereas I just like writing blurbs.
I should see if John's interested in just taking like a paperback, thing, because I would hand off paperbacks to him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
I don't think he's had a massive boon in digital sales, because I guess My books had already been out for quite a while, and we haven't released later titles yet. But he's got audio and he's got paperback, and he's certainly selling far more of those than I ever did. So,
well, and I think like we've discussed before, with any publisher, it's still the onus of the author to do most of the marketing, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is John picking up books that have already been out there. So until I get kind of a new book on the table, it's definitely my fault.
Well, that's actually a good, transition to like another free thing. Is it as big as it used to be? No, but I'm going to say outside of you totally like just going the whole automated route or like, or just not knowing what the hell you're doing, social media still sells books.
Yeah, it can. It's kind of on the wrong side of that 80-20 rule though. Like it's not one of the 20% of activities that do 80% of the work. But
I think it also comes down to a lot of people, let's be honest, waste too much time on social media.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was about to say, social media might sell books, but not the way I do it.
and I really do have to. Like, we talked to John Mertz a couple of weeks ago. I really do need to steal his idea of here's a picture, like, because I get a lot of like good feedback when I share pictures of my dogs. Now it's like, here's a picture of my dogs next to my book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I always used to be of the philosophy that I would, when I got an article written in Cracked or in Maxim, I'd be like, well, I'm going to write this really funny article. People are going to laugh at it. And they're going to see the link to my funny book. And they're going to buy the funny book because I made them laugh. But they never did. So I think I try and make people laugh on social media. And then maybe every 10 tweets or something, like, yeah, I'm here all night. Here's my book. But I think that's not really me selling it. That's just me making people laugh for free, and they're all ingrates.
Yeah.
No, but except they're not all ingrates, because if you're doing that for fun and you're having fun and you're going to do it anyway, I guarantee you're going to pick up a few of those people who, after a while, are like, I dig your style. Yeah. Maybe I'll check that out. I mean, as Claire said, 80-20 rule, it definitely is not there. And anybody who jumps into social media with the whole, I'm just going to market my books and like I'm going to sell a ton, yes, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're on social media as yourself, and you're moderating your time and you're going to be on there anyway,
could just be,
it can be an effective passive marketing platform.
That's true. I put up a link for the first book in my Jessica Christ series on Twitter, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I just threw up a reader link. Because I was just like, oh, by the way, I write books. Because I just bullshit on there and say, inflammatory shit. But I figured, like, there's some people. I don't have that many. I think I have maybe like 350 followers. Like, I'm not big on Twitter. And I got 60 clicks out of that. I was like, oh, okay. So there is something to be said about, your personality selling books. But you have to, make your personality known.
Yeah, you have to make your personality known, and you can't oversaturate. Like I use reader links. I have an automated tweet that goes out, and it's from like a pool of maybe 20 once, not even every day, once every other day. So the rest of the time, it's 100% me, whatever my stupidity is. And then once in a while, there's a little reminder of like, hey, if you like the stupid shit Rick says, and he hasn't driven you away, maybe you want to pick up his book,
So it might just be a case of they don't like the stupid shit I say.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say it, but if you're going to sell a new personality, you got to have a personality people want to be around.
Yeah. Ouch, Claire.
Sorry, no, not to say that Rick isn't.
I will go on record saying, Steve, you are fucking hilarious on social media.
Oh, thank you. I needed that after Claire absolutely destroyed me.
No, I didn't mean it. I don't mean it about you guys. I mean other people, not y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, John, if you listen to this, we have to still flag off John because he's not here.
John.
Twitter is like the author graveyard, because I can't tell you how many times I'll get followed by somebody. I have a strict thing. If somebody follows me, I will follow back if I go on there and I see you are a real human being. And my follow back rate is maybe less than a third, because it's like, okay, let's see who you are. Okay, blog post, tons of retweets. I don't see a single thing telling me, oh, my dog shit on my carpet, it sucked. That's all I need to see, is just one thing that tells me there's a real human behind there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, cue up those dog shitting on the carpet tweets to get Rick to follow you.
I'm going to make a bot with that, a bunch of links, and then a dog shit post.
You know something? I guarantee somebody smart, if they set up an automated tweeting thing that just did just random crap like that, they would never have to go onto Twitter but still look like a real person. That would be smart. But most people on social media are not smart about social media. They don't understand the social part of social media.
Well, I think what you're talking about, Rick, the Russians already did.
Yeah. And they did it pretty damn well. I want to hire them to be my social media managers.
Excellent.
Going back to Libby Hawker's book, I just looked it up. Because yes, you can do it for free and you can do all this stuff, but our book is 99 cents. So like, buy the fucking book. That's my recommendation.
Well, our topic was free or inexpensive.
Yes, 99 cents is. Well, I'm sorry, it comes out to about $1.08 after tax, and I have to dig in the couch for some extra change.
But learning to write your own blurb is really a priceless skill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I saw a course online. It said it was like $39, but I have no reason to trust that guy. But $39 for some seedy online course is going to teach you how to write your own blurb.
I was thinking of putting out there, like, maybe a paid service, and it wouldn't be much. I mean, I feel bad charging more than $20 for it or so, but like, forget blurb, tagline service, because my entire thing growing up was my mind thinks in one-liners.
You do have a good tagline for your bill books.
There you go, $20 for a tagline, $100 for a blurb. Just keep escalating until you're just writing a book for them.
Yeah, I don't think I want to go that route. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the headlines are killer. Like, some people will write, like, the headline or tagline, whatever you want to call it, and then write a book from that. And that's smart as hell.
And yeah, and Bob, your tagline is great. It stands out, What if you and your friends are in a game? What if your friends were assholes? That's a unique tagline. It is amazing how many people come up with taglines that are just so friggin' generic. Can you stand against the darkness? Yes, you and a million other books can stand against the darkness.
With a flashlight.
But I mean, the thing with the tagline is come up with something short, catchy, that is unique to your series, and it's harder than it sounds.
Yep. Although I will say, like stuff like cozy mystery, like paranormal cozy mysteries, you can come up with some real good puns. I'm all about the puns in the paranormal cozy mystery.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I got one. Write a deaf porn series. It's harder than it sounds.
You know what I came up with, like, as a gag, maybe my first year self-publishing, because I was just using it as a Twitter tag, and I'm killing myself for not actually using it, but like I came up with tagline zombie rotica. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't I make that? If I could go back in time 7 years, I'd smack the shit out of myself and be like, write that crap, man.
There's still time, Rick.
I started an erotic comedy website for a little bit, but couldn't get a whole lot of people to contribute to that. I don't know. So I think at this point it just has some like MM. I think there's some Citizen Kane erotica.
Oh, wow.
A lot of rosebud jokes in that one.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah. What was the last word on his lips?
I mean, there's other things. I know some people who are big on RPG. They started out on Royal Road and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do for free that just take up your time, but a lot of it is knowing how much time to put into it versus, once again, getting back to what you're saying, Claire, that 80-20 rule versus how much time you're sinking into it versus minimal return.
Right. I mean, there's time, and I said time is money, but at some point, if you're spending enough time, you'd be better off spending some money and using the time to write more fucking books.
Yeah. I would say that, judging by my own failures and the successes of all those I know who are successful, it's not an industry where you can't be an industrious, and writing the books actually costs you nothing and theoretically has the biggest return. So,
well, it costs you time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say, when I had more time than money for this, one of the best things that I could do was barter services. I think that's a huge thing because, I professionally edited for a long time, and I still do, but being able to be like switching off with other writers who are also editors and getting free editing services, or if you can design an okay cover, doing that sort of thing, just like developing a skill that's useful, even if it's like, oh, I write good headlines, or I write good blurbs or whatever. I can format your book for you in Vellum. And being able to barter with other authors can get you a long way. And it can get you more quality than if you just, did it yourself. Nobody can self-edit it.
That's how I started with my editor, Joan. She and I met on this writer's website, and we swapped stories. And I would do my editing for her, and she would do hers for me. And then it turned out I was producing a lot more work faster than she was. And then so eventually I just started paying her.
Yeah, that happened with my barter too.
Yeah, but it got me going.
Just make sure you have something to barter.
Yeah.
Right, that's the thing. And it's not that hard to develop a skill that you don't have to be the best in your industry at it. You just have to be better than most of the authors, or even like a few authors. And then you just barter with those, because not everyone is like well-rounded in this. I don't know if anyone's got onto that, but, authors aren't generally known for being good at all of the other stuff too. So just gotta get good at one thing.
Oh God. Also, if you go this route, make sure you find somebody that shares your vision, because man, I went down this road with a couple other people. Oh, they gave me some fucking shitty advice.
It's all right, you can name him. John's not here.
No, but like, critical failures. First book. Didn't know what the future was going to be, but I knew kind of what I wanted the feel for the first book to be. And, I had this guy, it's a bunch of losers sucked into the game world. This guy I sent it to, he came back and said, well, by the end of this book, they should have like these awesome armor and weapons, and they should be fighting dragons. Like, wow, you don't know what I'm going for, do you?
Oh, dude, I think I had the same person give me advice on Bill. He was like, by the end of the first book, he should be a hero. I'm like, maybe I'll just not take your advice.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're not giving your work to someone who wants it to be their work.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that I get that is now I just laugh about it and post the reviews to, my like lady author group chat, is people will come in and read the Jessica Christ books and be like, it needed more smiting. And it's like, what? That's your complaint? She wasn't smiting enough people when she was 13 years old? Like, okay. And it's just one of those things where there are some people who want to make your book their book.
Oh my God, I wouldn't have to sell books if I had $1 for every bit of advice along the lines of, and it's almost always another writer who gives you this advice. If you really wanted to sell more books, you do this. If you didn't want to alienate these readers, you do this. And sometimes those people will hit me on a bad day, like a low spot, and it'll really start to whammer its way into my head until I can push it out. But every so often, then the conversation will be like, well, I write books too, and oh, okay. And then I'll be like, let me go check you out on Amazon. And it'd be like, let's see here. All of your books are ranked 16 million in the store. I think perhaps I might pass on your advice.
You should just treat them like the readers who leave reviews, who read a book and say, oh, well, I was expecting an entirely different book that I made up in my head for no reason. And this book wasn't that, so you get 1 star. Mm-hmm. It's like those people are out there. And essentially what those writers are saying to you, why don't you go for those people? You don't live in the same dimension as them. So.
Yeah. We have this weird thing as writers where we try to cater to our naysayers when the reality is, screw them. We should be catering to the people who love our stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is something that I don't want to get too gender specific, but a lot of women are used to growing up in this impossibility vortex where it's like you're too fat. Oh no, you're too skinny. Like if you're either too weak or you're a bitch, and it's sort of this impossible, different, these polar opposites, right? You can never be okay. There's always half of the population thinks you're wrong. So that is actually a benefit when you become an author, if you've experienced that. And I don't think it's necessarily solely for women, but, socialization is a little bit, lose-lose.
Well, I just had a really mean big brother, so.
There you go. So you get to realize that no matter what you do, someone's going to be pissed off. So
yeah, we've all got Claire to talk shit about us. Faces.
Well, no, I mean you have a good. I mean, every time somebody I've talked to a lot of beginning authors, and I try to always be supportive. And people are like, well, what if I put it out there and people don't like my stuff? And I'm like, that's going to happen. I was like, just remember, J.K. and I love using her as an example. J.K. Rowling owns all the money in the world, and there are still people out there who hate her books. Do you think that bothers her?
Mm-hmm.
I hope it does.
Well, apparently it does on some days, since she keeps like retconning Harry Potter. But I like to think that's more a result, just like more going crazy, like in a Howard Hughes sort of way.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that it's important for people to remember is it's not if people don't like it, it's when people don't like it. And it's not if people don't like you, it's when people don't like you. It's inevitable. So it's like, do you want to tiptoe around or, that seems, I don't know, it's just exhausting.
Well, I tell people also, look at the trends. If one person mentions an issue with your book that 100 people have not mentioned, that's an opinion. If 10 people mention the same issue out of those 100 reviews, then maybe that's something to look at. That's how I shop for TVs. Like, if I'm looking to buy a Samsung TV and all the 1-star reviews all mention the same thing, that says maybe there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say, I did have some negative feedback saved my ass once, where one of my beta readers, apparently the joke was just kind of sloppily written. Anyway, when I read it, I realized she was correct. That it sounded like I was making fun of people with AIDS. I was not. So sometimes you should keep your ears open so you don't accidentally come off like you're making fun of people with AIDS.
There is something to be said about having enough, self-awareness. When somebody says, hey, this sucks, and even though I'm the only person mentioning it sucks, where you look and you realize, holy crap, they're right. It actually does.
Right. So a little bit off topic, but anything else besides bartering? Anything else, I guess, regarding bartering services that y'all got?
I'm a sucker for helping people out with their blurbs for free. Yeah. I know that now.
Same here.
There's gold in them there hills. Blurb hills. But no.
The only thing I would say, which is free advice I got from a journalist a while back, which was, when reaching out to somebody and ask for hey, can you give me a blurb or can you do this? You never want to be an obnoxious ass, but as far as politeness goes, the worst anybody can say is no. In which case, you're no worse off than you were before. And I wish I took this advice more often, but I am a pussy when it comes to reaching out to people. But it is advice I should take more often, which is that, dear Mr. King, I really love your books. Hey, could I interest you in a free copy of mine? No, the worst he can do is just ignore the crap out of you or say no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's pretty connected. He could probably have you up.
Well,
he could put a hit out on you for sure.
That's a bad example, Rick, but I get you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to create those relationships ahead of time. Obviously you want to create relationships because it's beneficial and we're human species, thrives off of interconnectedness or whatever. But also the more you get to know people in the industry, the more you build those relationships and the more likely that when you ask them for a favor, you've probably already done them a favor. So they'll be, inclined to say yes.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to be generous. My, whatchamacallit, my Facebook group, it's open to, some people run those into tight ship. You better not talk about another author or so. I'm like, hey, you want to come in and you want to talk about, hey, I'm reading John Hartnett's book, and even though he's a bastard.
John missed the wrong episode.
If you see something you like, share the love. If you read a book that you've enjoyed, share it with your readers. One, your readers will probably appreciate it, and two, that author will probably appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
I would warn against kind of getting into the trap of if I'm nice to this person, eventually they'll do me a favor. Because I've been in a kind of where I've slogged through books and just I'm good enough with weasel words. I can write you a review without, saying I didn't like this book. Then you think, maybe they'll share my fucking retweet. No, they can't even do that.
Right. So, you can't expect reciprocation.
Yes. So, just if you find yourself kind of doing it for a lot of other people and not getting it back, just step away from that.
Or do it only for the joy of doing it.
Oh, yeah, unless you just genuinely enjoyed the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, as I'd say, everyone I've reviewed out there, I secretly hated your book. I've reviewed for Underground Book Reviews for a couple of years, simply because, A, I enjoyed doing it, B, they gave me a little bit of beer money as well. So that was nice. But mainly because it was just nice to read new stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if an author comes to me, it's like, I have a book, and it is like, could I interest you in, like, in reading it or so? I mean, here's the thing. If it's not a genre I read, I will say so. If I have too many books on my plate, I'll say so. But generally speaking, I'm happy to, like, do that. As long as they understand that if they are asking for my opinion, and they better expect an honest opinion, because if I get back, if I don't want to deal with any prima donnas and crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's very brave of you to let them know that you're reading it. I don't tell them jack shit unless I like it.
I try to be honest. You know why? Because I think there's so many people out there who just will give you no feedback at all. I try to be nice about it, but the reality is, if I don't like your book, I will try to let you down gently. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'll be perfectly honest. I have read some abominable crap doing this, but I have found some real diamonds in the rough by doing it that way. A few people that I'm like, I can't believe nobody else is reading this.
Yeah.
And generally, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But what I'm talking about is I've kind of been in sort of mutually promotional kind of relationship with people before, where it's kind of you make the effort, you help people out, you make sure you promote everything they've got to promote, and then when it comes to you doing it, you get nothing but fucking crickets. Yeah. So just be aware of that.
And also, circle jerks never really work out well anyway.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but
Well, we're speaking figuratively. I mean,
okay.
Literally, I mean.
Yeah, we're speaking figuratively.
I can't even understand the metaphor here.
I wasn't speaking metaphors.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you do go for you kind of have to think like long-term strategy when it comes to reciprocation. Like going in and saying, I'm going to go force my help on this one person because I want their help later. Like that's obviously skeevy. But to just be like a helpful person in the community, you never know when that's going to help you out. And I think that's probably just like a good thing in general, like not just in your work community, right? You should just be a helpful person, whatever community you're in, to the point where you're, not exhausted all the time and taken advantage of. But
yeah, but it's never a bad thing to not be a douche.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, okay, being a douche is your brand.
Right. If you can make it your brand name or your brand style, you're good.
You're a special case, Bob.
Thanks, man. Special douche.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, to reiterate, if you just genuinely like the stuff, if you're a reader out there, be the change you want to see in the world without it necessarily being anything to do with you or your promotion. If you're the sort of person who thinks, I wish people would just talk more about what they like, that'd certainly be helpful for me. Try it yourself, you big old hypocrite.
Yeah, I think that's wise advice.
Well, we're in an hour and a half. Anybody got anything else they want to say? Yeah. Without a guest that does the talking.
Yeah, we actually need the guests to rein us in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're sick of you guests. Let's end the show.
Okay.
Is that how you're ending it?
Okay. that was anticlimactic.
Get here.
All right. Well, thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on Splam. If you enjoyed this, I hope you will subscribe and like and all that shit, and join us on the next leg of our journey towards self-publishing like a motherfucker.